So, something that came up while we were chatting is we were talking about different TV shows that we're watching and movies. And I mentioned how Garth and I had watched a movie recently called 1917, which is about World War One. And my mom was like, "Oh, that's quite a depressing thing to watch at the moment." And I was like, "Yeah, it can be, but sometimes I like a good war movie." And then we were just talking about it was from my Game of Thrones, and I must be the only person in the world, aside from my sister, who's never watched Game of Thrones. And my mom loves it, so she was like, "It's actually really good. You'd probably really like it if you did watch it." And then my dad piped up and said how he'd found it to be very gruesome, and that's why he didn't like it, type of thing. And yeah, so we were just talking about, the things that you watch, and I was saying that since reading the book Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Dr. Wayne Dyer, which is all about the wisdom of the Tao, which is like an ancient Chinese philosophy. Since reading that book, my tolerance level for like really graphic, violent stuff in movies and series has gone right down because it's a very peaceful philosophy of non-violence. Um, and hey, Killian, nice to see you there. Yeah, so the Tao, which is Tao, but it's pronounced as Tao, not Tao. Um, yeah, it's all about being very peaceful and not resistant, like going with the flow and that type of thing. And I really enjoyed the philosophy behind that. And I remember this was probably about 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago now that I read it, and it totally changed my perspective on what I'm consuming when I'm watching movies and series. And like we love watching, crime series like police. What do you call it? I forget the words, but basically like investigative type of stuff. Um, with like murder scenes and serial killers and that type of thing. Like we always watch series like that. And I went through a period of time where I actually couldn't watch that stuff anymore because it felt not okay anymore. And when we first went into this lockdown, I had a similar type of response where I was like, I don't want to watch anything that's going to like contribute to my already heightened anxiety. And now that's worn away a bit, so now I can watch stuff like that. But do I want to? And I think there's a time and a place, and it's not that there needs to be some kind of black and white rule about I don't watch violent films or I do watch violent films. I think it depends on your mood and it depends where you're at. But my message today is basically be mindful about what you are consuming. So if you are having a bad day, watching something that's super violent or really depressing might make it worse. Whereas watching something that's a little bit more upbeat or something that's could be meaningful, doesn't have to just be a sitcom. Could be a really meaningful movie, but it's got an overall positive message. It's inspirational. Might be better for you than watching something that's super depressing or that's really violent that might like I feel like the moment like a lot of us have a lot of anxiety sitting in us wherever it sits for you. And so watching stuff that's quite gruesome can really trigger that. And I know for myself, like when I had my meltdown a couple weeks ago, we'd been watching a series based on a group of people in the 70s that were hunting down Nazis and kind of disposing of them in very graphic ways and violent ways. And I found it very triggering, even though the series is really good and I would recommend it, because of the anxiety I was feeling at the time. Like from the first scene in the first episode, I felt this ball of anxiety sitting in my stomach, and I said to Garth, I was like, wow, I can really feel the tension inside me watching that scene. That was really brutal. And it was quite triggering for me. So whilst, in a different frame of mind, I would watch that series and be like, oh, that was brilliant. Because of where I was at on that particular day and time, I don't know that it really helped matters, if that makes sense. So the invitation is check in with yourself and choose what you consume. See, there's a comment here. I love watching post-apocalyptic zombie series. Oh my god. Garth has been begging me to watch The Walking Dead. I don't even know if that's zombie, but I think it might be. And I've finally given in and said, all right, cool, let's finish watching. We're busy rewatching New Girl at the moment, which I love. So I was like, let's finish New Girl and then we'll do Walking Dead. Okay. So I don't mind a bit of that, but I gotta be in the frame of mind for it. Um, yeah. So, and when I say be mindful of what you consume, it's not just series and TV, like movies and that. It's also media. What are you reading? And social media. What are you spending time scrolling through? So I know that when I go onto Instagram, because I've been incredibly choosy about which accounts I follow, I only see stuff which is either helpful for my business or inspirational. I don't follow accounts on Instagram that share any kind of negative stuff, or anything that kind of brings up anxiety in me. So if I need a good like positive hit, I go onto Instagram. If I feel like being hooked into drama and reading like all kinds of, I don't know, soap opera style conversations, I go onto Facebook into community groups. Because let me tell you, people are hectic in those groups. And sometimes it's a great series. Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna give it a try, so I'll let you know what I think about Walking Dead. um, yeah, if you ever like, sometimes you get hooked into reading and consuming all the drama that's happening on social media. Like someone will make a disparaging comment and then everyone will jump on them, and I'm sure you guys have, like, you've all found yourselves hooked into those sometimes. And I find myself like mindlessly reading threads of comments from people I don't know, and that they're all really negative, and then I have this moment of awareness where I catch myself and I go, what am I doing? Why am I wasting my life reading these comments which are not helping me in any which way? They're just making me feel like riled up, you know, and I want to comment too, but I would never, because no, I don't get involved in that stuff. But you know, it's yeah. So become more mindful about what you consume, whether it is what you're reading, what you're watching, the news. If the news is upsetting for you, don't read the news. I promise you, if you need to know something important, like, you know, the stages of lockdown or whatever, someone you know will tell you, okay? Like, it's okay. You don't have to watch the news. And again, I find myself like Google, you know, gives me notifications on my phone with news. Oh, there I'm back. Google gives me notifications on my phone with news headlines because I've gone in and read some of the stories, like a little bit. And so now it thinks I like that, and it keeps telling me things. And so these notifications pop up for articles by like the Daily Maverick and whoever else. And sometimes they are interesting, but sometimes they just get me hooked into that spiral of anxiety about the situation that we're in. So I'm not suggesting putting blinkers on and pretending everything's okay when it doesn't feel okay. But what I'm talking about is becoming more mindful of how you're spending your time and what you are watching, because it does affect you in some way. Okay, so if you're not feeling good, don't watch stuff that makes you feel even worse. Watch stuff that's going to make you feel better. And really, it's about self-care. It's about taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, and even physically. Because if you've experienced true anxiety, you'll know it lives in your body. It's a very real physical sensation. And so the stuff that you consume can have a really profound effect on that. So, yeah. That is all. Any comments or questions or agrees or disagrees or anything like that? Maybe share anything that you do watch that you find really uplifting. There's this really cheesy series on Netflix called Restaurants at the Edge, and it's a team of 3 people. One's an interior designer, one's a chef, and one's a restaurateur. And they go into these restaurants that all have incredible views in all these different countries, and like restaurants that are struggling and about to shut down, and they like, you know, turn them around. So they give them a facelift. The interior designer does her thing, and they change the menu to be more about the local produce. And then the restaurateur often does like a drink or a PR thing or something like that. And they just turn the place around. But it's not your average kind of makeover type of thing. They show stories of people that live in these faraway places and who own these restaurants, and it's so heartwarming. It actually brought me to tears a couple episodes because it was so sweet how touched they were by the changes and the makeovers, and it really like hooked me in emotionally. And yeah, what a random thing to kind of touch your heart, but but this series. So when I saw there was a season 2 now on Netflix, I was like, yes, I need more of this because this makes me feel good. I like knowing more about random people on the other side of the world who are, being helped in some way. That makes me feel good. So be mindful about what you're consuming and set yourself up to be happy. And I hope that this has been helpful in some way, and at the very least, a nice gentle reminder to incorporate even more mindfulness into your life. All right, sending you love. I'll chat to you soon. Bye.